Shalom. Good Erev Shabbat. The sun is falling, and here in Eretz Israel, we're getting ready for another wonderful day of Shabbat, another gift, another time to turn off the motor and just relax and enjoy. Enjoy this world a little bit from the place of not taking, but rather observing, experiencing. Because most of the weekdays, we're either giving or taking, and we're working that out both directions, right? But Shabbat, it's the sense of giving that is receiving. And you know, when the grandkids came over and you give them little presents, who's having more joy? The little kids get their little presents and they're happy, but the grandfather, he's just unbelievable. The joy that you can get from giving as opposed to receiving. Now, we have a piece of Zohar here that's going to touch a button for us. And this is an important button to be touched because Pirkei Avot tells us, Al tishamesh et harav al manat lekabel pras. Don't serve the master for the sake of receiving a reward. Of course, the master is the Blessed Holy One, and we don't want to serve him because we know we'll get a reward. So why is he giving a reward? If he doesn't want us to do it for the sake of the reward, why do you give the reward? Of course, the same idea is that you give the candy to the child to get him to learn, and then after he learns a little bit, he gets the pleasure of the learning itself, and he doesn't need the candy anymore. He grows out of needing that little prize, for that reward. And so the Zohar says in Parshat Korach, this week's Parsha, Shamru da shechinta. The idea of Shamru b'nei Yisrael at the Shabbat, lasot at the Shabbat. Well, Shamru is the idea, guarding, is part of this idea of the Shekhinah. The Shekhinah, the divine presence, is the indwelling presence of a God, and the HaKadosh Baruch Hu is that external, infinite, unknowable aspect. But the Shekhinah is that part of us that has that direct communication, connection with God. Rabbi Nachman explains the Likutei Moharan that the Shekhinah is the middle ground between man and the infinite. She's part of the infinite, but she's also part of us. And so our connection to the infinite is flowing up and down this ladder of power from God to the Shekhinah, and then vice versa. So the Shekhinah is this idea of guarding. Okay. The natural le'inun the Shomrei Shabbat, and who does she guard? She guards the people who keep Shabbat. So now we have the same thing again. You get a good deed and you get a prize. You keep Shabbat and you get guarded. Well, that's kind of not a bad idea to have a guard, right? A spiritual infinite being guarding you. Oh, why not? But it's not the idea of serving Hashem for the sake of serving Hashem. It's not the idea of this is the most important thing we can do on this planet, is to serve Hashem, because when you serve Hashem, you join the infinite. You join a partnership with the Creator. And so, but look, we have to be where we are. We have to be at the level. If I want a prize, then I get to get a prize. And I go and keep Shabbat and Yom Tov, it says, the begin kach, because of that keeping Shabbat and Yom Tov, lo zaz Shechinat Yisrael b'chol Shabbatot v'Yamim Tovim. Therefore, the Shekhinah never leaves the Jewish people on Shabbat and Yom Tov, because they're keeping the Shabbat and Yom Tov. So that level of al tishamesh et harav al manat lekabel pras, don't serve the master for the prize, is still kind of a prize. It's a surprise. The surprise is that after you serve God for the sake of the reward after a while you put down the candy. Okay, it's great. I want to keep Shabbat, but I want to do it because something more sublime, something more internal, something more transformational. Va'afilu Shabbatot b'yamei achol. And he goes on to tell us an interesting idea. And even the Shabbatot in the weekdays, which I'm not sure what is a Shabbat on the weekdays, well, it means during the week. Because the Shabbat in the language of the Mishnah is also a week. And so the weekday is still part of Shabbat, and it's referred to in such language. And it gives us a very interesting double language, the Zohar does, that the Shekhinah Sogeret closes around us, Umis Sugeret Bahon, and she's guarded, she's surrounded by us as well. There's this symbiotic relationship. She guards us, we guard her, we're inside her, she's inside us. And it's working both ways. So if you're looking for the divine, you can look within or without. You look at the world around you, or you can look in your own heart and in your own life. And you can go either way. And that's a beautiful thing too, because we have more options. We don't have to be stuck in the same rote, right? The same rote service of God, which is, as we all know, is not going to lead us too far in the direction we want to go. So, okay, where do we go with this idea? How does this help us in our everyday service right now? Well, it helps us to know who we are. And once I know where I'm really holding, that I really want the prize, If I'm still holding that I want that candy, then I have to be real with myself and say, oh, that's where I'm holding. And if I'm saying, no, I'm just tired of serving Hashem for the candy, then I want to find out what it is, this idea of Lishma. Now, Lishma literally means for God's name, but God's name is really, of course, his reputation. And what does it mean to serve God for his reputation? Well, rather, for the reputation that he carries in the minds of humanity. That we want to serve Hashem, and we want the world to get the message that there is this beautiful, wonderful, intimate, infinite, animate, sentient being that wants a relationship with us because he created us. Just like you want a relationship for your kid. Can you imagine? You bring the kid home from the hospital, and he says, no, I don't want to talk to you, Mom, Dad. Happens a lot nowadays, right? But the point is that, of course, we want a relationship with our kids, even if we don't know what to say. And even if it's hard. And even if it hurts sometimes. And, teenagers, they get to that place, they're not even interested so much in the parents anymore, because it's their time to grow beyond us into their next realm, into their next level, and they don't need to be bothered by their parents while they're going through that growth phase. Our job is to provide the support system while they're on the move, and it can hurt sometimes because you want to communicate and connect with them, and they're busy trying to become themselves. That's a very busy business. Okay, so, Shabbat guards us and we guard Shabbat, but of course I don't want to just keep Shabbat because I need the guard duty, I need someone on the front door with an AK. But, the idea is rather that we don't want to need the guarding, right? We don't want to be in a situation where I need to be guarded. Now, some people, they can't help it. They're billionaires and they're movie stars, and people act inappropriately, and they're paparazzi make life hell for famous people, and that's another story. Should be another piece on itself. But so you need to be guarded. But wouldn't it be better to be guarded by Hashem? There's a famous story about someone who left something in the street. I think it was a $100 bill, and they got home and they realized that they had fallen out of their pocket. They didn't know where or what, so they decided to go back and retrace their steps back to they were, and they went back to where they'd been in the city, and there was the $100 bill on the ground. Like, how does people not see it? So this guy was a little bit of a spiritual, and he went to ask his rabbi, and the rabbi said, no, because you guard your money and you guard the mitzvot, then God guards your money. And he sets an angel over the money. Now, like saying, okay, wait a minute. Is this a movie? Is this a cartoon? I got an angel guarding my $100 bill because I'm a good guy and I keep the mitzvot, And, and these calculations they're troublesome sometimes because it feels a little hokey, maybe. But once you understand how the network works, that when you do a mitzvah, that mitzvah wants you. It wants you to come back and do it again and again. That mitzvah, and especially if it's a special mitzvah that only you can do at a certain time in a certain place, that mitzvah calls you and won't let you go. And I've seen this so many times, that I was doing some type of activity, some mitzvah, and I wanted to be done with it and move on to the next thing. And the mitzvah kept saying, no, you're not leaving this job yet. You're not leaving this person. You're not leaving this client. You're not leaving this situation or this job. You still have work here. And the mitzvah is really calling us to it. Okay, and that is part of this idea of that guard, that angel is the intentionality that you invested in the act. You create an energy field on that $100 bill sitting on the middle of Fifth Avenue, and that field protects it and no one else sees it. So maybe you've had such an experience, maybe you haven't, maybe you believe it, maybe you don't. But this is the nature of all mitzvah, because when you do an act that God commands, you're actually invoking his presence into the world. And that's what it means to serve God for the sake of his name, for the sake of the invitation of bringing the Creator into the world. We should all be blessed to feel that, to experience that, to live that. and then you don't care about the candy, and you don't worry about the prize, and you just go on from thing to thing, from moment to moment, and life becomes a spiritual carnival that you just enjoy for the rest of the story. God bless you all. Have a great Shabbat, and we'll see you next week on all the platforms. Shabbat Shalom.